I confided in my fiance about my dark past. Now he's ghosting me. Hey, this story contains substance abuse, just so you know. This happened a week ago, and I have not heard from him since. I've tried texting him, calling him, went to his apartment, went to his sister's house. I can't find him, and everybody's telling me that they haven't heard from him either. Everybody except his brother, who obviously did not get the memo like everyone else did, to lie to me. This is starting off a lot of intrigue.
Yeah.
He actually told me that Greg, not his real name, doesn't want to see or speak to me. By the way, this comes from BC Clean on the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, a brief rundown on how we got here. We met 3 years ago at a church function. Yes, I know Reddit hates religion, but it is what it is. I have had a very rough life when it comes to men, so I really don't engage any of them in conversation other than just briefly if I can get by with it. However, I was listening to Greg speak to a group of people about a book that I had just read, so I stood there and listened to him. After he was done talking, the group kind of hung around a little, and I asked him questions about the book. He answered every single one. And the more he talked, the more I was attracted to him. Now, this may not sound like much, but it was the first time I was actually attracted to a guy since high school.
Wow.
As I said, rough experience, but suffice to say, after I left high school, I got involved with bad crowds. I turned to substances, and when my family finally had all they could take out of me when I was 19, they kicked me out. I don't blame them for this, by the way, because I stole from them to feed my addiction. They tried many times to help me, but when I stole a very large sum of money from them and spent it on substances, they had enough. Living friend house to friend house, couch searching for about 6 weeks, but still an addict. I got caught stealing from them as well. So OP kind of going down a dark path.
Yeah.
I was homeless for 2 weeks, honestly lived on a park bench for a couple of days. I started to spicy dancing and everything that goes along with it. In other words, I was doing private parties, private dances, and yes, it quickly turned to being paid for spicy sleep. I honestly don't remember a lot of times because I wasn't working. I was either on substances or working on substances. I did this for a few years. And then on my 23rd birthday, I OD'd. Stopped breathing. The paramedics honestly saved my life because they did CPR on me and brought me around.
Wow.
I was in the ICU for 3 days on a ventilator and I had several IVs. While I was in an ICU, a preacher came by to see me. He was a minister who goes and visits with families and patients. He came to me and he spoke to me about how life has a higher purpose. He said a whole lot more, but I won't bore you with it. Needless to say, whether it was him, me being fed up with my life, or God, I don't know, but it really moved me. And when I got out of the ICU, I asked them to help me get off all the substances.
Here we go. Coming back around.
Comeback story.
Like, yes.
It got dark, but whoosh,
I think we're coming. Yes.
Coming up.
I love to see it.
it worked. I've been clean since the day I left.
Wow.
And I have never had a single desire to go back to that. It wasn't easy at first, but every day got a little better. I got a job. I reconnected with my family. And then I met Greg.
Greg.
The guy that knew the book.
That's right. Book boy.
I had never been in love, not even in high school. But after going on a few dates, I was head over heels for him. On our 1-year anniversary, he asked me to marry him, but with the idea that it would be a year till the wedding.
Okay.
I happily agreed, and it's been the best time of my life. I felt the warmth every single day of his love. But then my mom and dad and I were making wedding plans. They wanted to pay, even though I told them not to. And one day, while we were talking, they asked, what did Greg know about my past? They were meaning, did he know about the substances? My mom and dad don't fully know how far I sunk. The substances were bad enough. My mom said that if Greg never asks, then I really should just keep it to myself. That I was a different person, and what was in the past should just stay in the past. And I would be curious what you guys think about this. I think generally on this show, we think secrets get stinkier with time.
Indeed.
And so try to be open and honest, and then you'll have no surprises. And like if this guy has a problem with that, better to know early. Not that, he should have a problem with that.
Yeah.
but like better for yourself.
For you to know if he would have a problem and might want to end the relationship or before you get into it.
Curious what everyone else thinks, but let us know in the comments.
No.
My dad, however, said something that actually made sense to me at the time. I kind of regret listening to him now, though. He said that even though I had changed, who I was still a part of who I am, and hiding the past really is like lying. If Fred loved me, then he wouldn't care about the past. But if he ever found out on his own or some other way, then he might not be so forgiving because he might consider it a lie, which I totally see.
Yeah.
So last weekend, I got all the courage I could muster, and I decided to tell him everything. He knows things my parents don't know, and now I feel very much betrayed. At first, he thought I was joking, but when I assured him I was not, he kind of got quiet. Then he told me that he appreciated the honesty. He didn't know how he felt, that he needed time to think. Which I think, with any kind of admission like this, probably would, take some time to think.
Yeah. Not that it like everyone 100% would, but I guess it like
no red flags from either party right now.
I think
so far.
I think it's fine, and he just needs to even just processing the information. Even if it's not like negative, it's just like, oh wow, that's just like a lot.
Even if it's like, sorry, I'm so sorry you went through this. Like I need to process just like how I can empathize with you going through this. All that kind of stuff. That has been a week now. I let him go Saturday through Sunday with only texting him a couple of times, just letting him know that I still loved him and making sure he was okay and if he had any questions to ask me. Well, he never responded. And it has been a week since I've heard from him.
Whoa.
And I don't know what to do. He has been my rock since we got together. Times I've been down, he has picked me up. When I've been sad, he has made me laugh. I truly hope I have not hurt him. I think that would be the worst thing of all. I know my past life was disgusting, but it's been 6 years. And since I've been completely out of that life. I was in another city, actually even another state, so there's no way that past life can come back to see me here. I made no friendships or relationships during that time, so there's nobody going to seek me out. Can anyone please tell me what I can do or say that will win him, that will be with him? I really love him with all of my heart and will do anything to make this right. And there is an update. So, question for you guys.
Yes.
Question for John. Is there anything to do? I do think she made the right decision, although a hard decision to tell him.
Yeah, very brave decision for sure.
But yeah, I'm curious. What do you think? Is there anything else to do here?
Yeah, I mean, so she's already sent him some like texts and whatnot, trying to reach out, right? And she just hasn't heard back from that. I mean, I don't know what the messages she said was, but if she needed,
I think it was total. It was just like, hey, if you have any questions, like it was, it was like really chill messages.
Yeah. I guess I feel like there is kind of like a period of time where it's like, like it's been a week. It's been a week already.
Yeah.
That does kind of feel like I feel like if you were engaged and then it's someone just like completely ghosts you, I do think that person does owe you like, hey, I don't want to keep moving forward. Here's why. So
agreed.
A week of literally 7 days of not a peep and not knowing where they are or anything like that. I think you could at that point start, call the parents, call like, hey, we had a conversation. I haven't heard from him in 7 days. We're fiancés and like, whatever he wants to do, I'm fine with. I just want to be able to like talk and communicate. I feel like it's probably appropriate.
I think douchey to sum up and agree with you. Douchey to ghost.
Yes.
Understandable if he doesn't want to continue the relationship. But good on her for coming and being completely
Most definitely
honest.
Yeah,
like that should be lauded.
Absolutely, a lot of bravery,
and better to do that before you get married than for him to find out after and him being unable to accept that.
And I can understand too where from her perspective she's like, I've literally been stone cold sober since the day I left the hospital. But it might be hard for him to fully like download and perceive that because of this of what he's thought of her. Maybe he's like has never known anyone, is just completely unaware of what that looks like. So I can appreciate from her perspective. It's like I want him to know that like, hey, I'm good. But then on his end, him being confused, yeah, it's tough.
We do have an update.
Oh,
so we were taking about a 30-minute emotional break. 30-minute? I'm confused by that.
Half hour.
I asked for it, and he said he needed it as well. We have been at my place all afternoon talking. Oh, so they started talking.
We're back.
And now they take a 30-minute emotional break from talking, and OP's typing this up on that break.
It's the point in the movie where they haven't like seen each other, and then all of a sudden she's like just outside the door from them. And you're like, oh crap, they
just had
back.
This conversation. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It has been rough. I've cried more today than I've ever cried in my life, but we are talking, and as of now, we are still together, just no longer engaged at his request. By the way, all of the crying has not been sad cries. He has also been very open with his past, and it touched me that he felt compelled to be this open when he didn't have to. This feels good.
She's
good direction.
Yeah.
I didn't know if anyone really cares, but I'll try to write a full update later tonight. But thank you all so much for the words of encouragement. It has helped me far more than you'll ever know. And we got another update. I think we jump into it, but I do feel like this is good.
It seems like they're having a very, very open dialogue, and they're kind of like stepping back to be able to hear, and like for instance, she doesn't want to hear that the engagement is off and they're still together, but it seems like she's like, all right, I'm going to, accept it, and kind of like they're working together. They're working together. I think that's what it is.
I think that is, in a tense situation like that is a really good starting point.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Update. My 29 female fiance, 29 male, has ghosted me since he found out about my past. So the title of the post, really inaccurate on my part, because he did get in touch with me and we met for several hours on Sunday. So he didn't ghost me. He never intended to ghost me, and his family did not lie for him. In fact, before we had time to talk at church, his brother came by to me and apologized for the way he handled my phone call. He said he clearly did not understand his brother's wish to be alone, to think, and on his own, and interpreted that to mean he didn't want to talk to me. The rest of his family has no idea there was any significant problem and did not know where he was because he went away for the week, and told them to only contact him for any emergencies. It sounds like he's trying to clear his head.
Yeah.
Obviously, they knew something was up but had no idea. So the ghosting part was a combination of miscommunication and, well, honestly, just anxiety and impatience on my part. We both apologized over that and moved on. So anyway, we met at church for morning service, and I got there first and went and sat in our usual spot, and he got there just as service was starting, but he came over and sat down beside me, and we shared a quick smile as the service started. I was dying inside. I feel like that's good. Good
Maybe.
sign.
Dying inside?
Yeah, well, not the dying inside, but the sitting next to each other.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Again, like learning something new about somebody's past is just gonna be, it's gonna shake you a little bit. It's like something that you didn't know before. So I don't think he's right now, so far, I don't think he's like a massive D-bag or anything. I do think it takes time to process new information, and he hasn't ghosted her. They've had time to talk. Like I think it is a process.
So to be clear, at first we had the impression of that it was like 7 days of literally zero communication, but actually it was like, oh, she called the brother, and the brother's like, hey, he doesn't want to talk to you. But it's like,
But that was a miscommunication, and they did talk a couple days later.
Okay, so it wasn't 7 full days. It was probably like realistically a few days.
Yeah, and there was like some communication, but not much.
Okay. Okay. Because I was gonna say, I feel like there is like a time limit, and 7 days does seem to be with zero. Like if they're alive,
Yeah, for
like
your fiance, yeah.
But a few days, I think, is reasonable.
And you know what? If your Haleana Bain says his response is very human, but that doesn't mean I like it. That couldn't have said it better there.
Yeah.
You know what? That his response is very human, but what if he was doing the best thing? It would be like, hey, I need time to talk, or not, I need time to think about this. And like trying to communicate that
I need another day.
Yes.
I need more time. Keep her in the loop.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to be
in constant communication or happy about it. It just means, she was your fiance before you degraded things down to boyfriend, girlfriend.
Demotion.
Demotion. And I think communicating through that process, if you want to have the best way of moving forward, is the best thing to do. But Haleana Baines.
Great comment.
Chef's kiss. All right, so after service was over, people were shaking hands, talking. And this is when his brother came to me to apologize. And while we were talking, he slipped away and talked to a few other people. I have a feeling this was planned, but whatever. He came back over and asked how I was. And I almost lost it, but held it together and said I was okay. But obviously I was tearing up as we were talking. He asked if I wanted to talk now or later, and I just wanted to get it over with because if he was going to break up with me, I just wanted it to be done and over with so I could go home and start the grieving process. So I just said, I'm ready. He said he really wanted to talk somewhere private and asked where I would prefer to go. And all I could think of was my place. So I didn't have to drive when it was all over and done with. He followed me home and he came inside and said he really wanted this to be civil. Not a good sign.
Yeah.
By this time, I was already a bundle of nerves. So I just blurted out, "Are you going to leave me?" Obviously, I'm crying as I say this. Is sad.
Yeah.
This is sad. But again, OP, I just want to say, you did the right thing. Don't feel bad for being honest. If anything that you learned from this, try to be honest earlier.
I totally get it. She's literally in the moment right now. So I feel like probably she seems to have a good head on her shoulders. She'll probably after come to a perspective like that.
Yeah.
But probably right now she's like,
fuck. Yeah. What he said next left me with a lot of hope because I really thought it was a done deal. Roller coaster ride, all right?
Right.
Hope. He said that a lot of what happens going forward would depend on what I said that day with him and how much I wanted to tolerate from him.
Okay.
That last part really confused me, but I was just so relieved that he didn't say yes that I basically collapsed into my chair and told him that I was ready to do whatever it took. He then said that if that was the case, then he would ask for two things from me, and that was honesty and patience.
Okay.
So far, I'm like, okay, all right.
He is a little bit I get that she's kind of being held in suspense, but I think we are, it's kind of hard to I feel like it's just the route of communicate. You need to kind of go through that to get to the point of him being basically trying to figure out where they want to go from here.
Ming Ming says, did he cheat, tolerate from him? I'm not interpreting as that. I'm interpreting it more as hey, you unloaded a lot of information for me and I want to be the best person that I can be to you.
Yeah.
But I have these erroneous beliefs of how I want my partner to act at all times. And I need space and time to move past this just because it's even though I know that this, this is in the past and I shouldn't judge you based on this because you are now a different person, it's still going to be hard for me to get past it. And so give me patience and still give me honesty as I'm moving through this.
I think so.
That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
But
same.
Let's see. So he started off apologizing to me for not being a better man. Well, that was all I could take. When he said that, the floodgates came open. Here it was, this wonderful man who I basically lied to and dropped probably what I can only imagine from a man's point of view being one of the worst things you could ever tell a future spouse. And he was apologizing to me. I had to hug him and tell him not to apologize to me. He held me as I cried for a few minutes, but then tried to gather myself to listen to him. He went on to say he had a horrible week. He said he had come face to face with a lot of his own insecurities, jealousies, and prejudices, which I think, if I was confronted with the same information, I probably would have a lot of these same things come up.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I would act in a way similar to this guy where I'm really trying to work through these insecurities and these erroneous prejudices.
I like how he's breaking this down. He's basically like low-key a masterclass because he's like, hey, I am feeling these things, instead of like going and be like, hey, this is what I think, that like attacking her with it. He's like, hey, these are the feelings I have. I'm just gonna sit down and like unpack it
and like
attack you with
though
it.
I know I feel these feelings, I also know that like it's like this is my problem, not yours. You know?
Yeah.
Which I think is cool.
Really great.
He also said that he learned something about himself and he did not like what he learned. He said, up until I told him my story, he did not realize that he was very possessive and had a jealous streak. He talked a lot about it, but I'll skip that because it was really personal. And while this is going to be a length of a book, if I include that, he then asked me if I was willing to put up with him having some very probing questions and some very personal comments about them. Again, I said I was going to do whatever it took. So he asked the following questions. 1, did I use protection every time? 2, did I have any interaction with anyone spicy sleepily in the city we live now? 3, did I have any idea how many people I had spicy sleep with? 4, have I been tested for any spicy sleepily transmitted diseases? And if so, when was the last time and did I keep records of it? 5, am I willing to be tested again and even again in the future? 6, did I ever have spicy sleep with anyone without them being a customer? 7, what type of substances did I take? 8, when was the last time I took substances? 9, do I feel any need or desire to take substances or any other substance since this incident occurred? 10, how can I guarantee to him that I won't in the future turn back to substances? 11, does spicy sleep have any real meaning for me? And do I enjoy it, or is it just something I do now to be close to him? 12, how much money did I steal? 13, did I pay back the money? 14, have I ever stolen any money or anything else without it being for substances? 15, how can I guarantee him that I won't steal from him in the future? And I think that's it. Wow.
He wasn't lying. He said he had a lot of probing questions. He said it and he meant it.
And I think those, if you're trying to start from an honest, open place, I think, and it's going to be your fiance, I feel like you can ask these questions.
I think because he like laid it out and he's basically like, hey, I am going to like really dig deep here. So I want to give you the heads up and the warning that it's going to probably feel like that. Is it okay to
he asked for permission before asking those questions.
Yes.
And now he's asking permission again by asking these questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you guys feel about those questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Persagriba says fair. Would love to know what all of you guys think.
Please.
I could, I obviously I have my own like biases and insecurities, but for me, I feel like he's handling it in a fairly positive way.
Mm-hmm.
But I would really, Caitlin Van Campen says that's a lot of questions, but I think it's coming from a good place. Getting of Darkness says, I think it's fair. So, this took several hours to answer because I had to often stop to compose myself, but I answered every one of his questions as honestly as I could. He often told me that I didn't have to answer them if I didn't want to and kept apologizing for asking, but he said that to go forward with anything, he knew that he had to know or he just wouldn't be able to. He then listed out his concerns and asked if I really wanted to work with him on them, and he would understand if I didn't want to. I said I wouldn't be here if I didn't want this. So his concerns were as follows. This does feel healthy.
I think so. I mean, he's like just trying to break it down, and I think he's also trying to be as self-aware as possible and saying like, hey, some of these questions might be, Lala said the questions are weird, but I don't understand why he asked. Like, it's like, he's like, hey, I'm trying to be self-aware and that these might be like I might not be like educated on stuff. I might be again, like you said, my own insecurities, my own fears and everything. But he's like, for me to continue in this relationship, like I, at least as of right now, want to. Ming, over communication is better than no communication. I also totally agree. I don't know. I think he's, again, he might not be like fully educated in everything, but I feel like every relationship is unique. And he's like, for me in this relationship, this is what I need. Do I have your consent and permission to move forward?
Yeah. And she's giving her consent and permission.
It seems like she's like, so far, yes. Like, I'm good with it.
So his concerns are as follows. A, he's afraid that if times get rough in the future, for whatever reason, I might steal from him or his family. Honestly, I was surprised by this, as this was not something I thought would be an issue, but it was the first thing he talked about. Now, to be fair, his family owns a business. They're not rich, but they are not poor either, so I guess he's worried when he takes over, I might steal. B, in his words, he has an irrational fear that once a junkie, always a junkie. And he said he doesn't know how strong he is, and it would hurt him massively to the point of being no longer on this plane if we stayed together and I sunk back into that world. C, his fear that spicy sleep would be an issue going forward. He said that he has horrible, intrusive thoughts that have been happening all week. The fact that I have been with so many people and done so many different things that nothing would ever be special. And ultimately, he was afraid we would become bitter because he would feel like we were just having spicy sleep for him, and that knowing that I would just be participating would really make him desire to have spicy sleep with me drop significantly. Again, I listened to him and answered every concern to what I could. He said he knew a lot of this was nothing I could ever really guarantee, but he just had to talk about it. I told him that I understood and that I had already expected that some of this would come up. As I said, we spent several hours going over this stuff. We had to take a couple of breaks so that way our emotions would not get the better of us. He really went through the range of emotions himself, but I knew I had to let him if I wanted this to work. He told me he was willing to stay, and he was willing to try to make this work because he really loved me. Obviously, my heart leaped at this, and I cried again. You would think with everything I've been through, I would be tougher than this. But he said that he did not feel like we could go through with the wedding as scheduled, and that in all honesty, he would like to end our engagement and stay dating, exclusive of course, for a while, which I think is good.
It's like, hey, let's take time to rebuild the relationship anew to get back to this point.
And also rebuild the relationship from a place of complete honesty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, yes, you are, you can be a different person in every moment, right? You can choose to be a different, better version of yourself in every moment. But if I hit a big part of who I am and introduce that to my partner, I would expect my partner to feel like they didn't know me, or at least not all of me.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think it would be important to start building. It would be important to establish a period of time where we're rebuilding from complete honesty. And when you rebuild from complete honesty, I think you rebuild on very strong ground.
On stronger. Like you will, I feel like they will be a stronger couple after this. That says like fortified the foundation of their relationship, I feel like.
And again, if there's one thing, I think that, but it's hard for OP too, because it's like, it's easy for me to say, hey, you should have been honest with him from the get-go. But like, if you say all of this on your first date, probably not going to get another date.
It's a tough spot, right? And I do want to say super quick, there is this like, this slight, and I'm curious, what do you think on this? There's a slight air of like, she was like, I'll do anything and like, whatever it takes. I'm almost like, still remember your self-worth. Not that she's, disregarding it necessarily, but like to remember like, hey, you got clean, you changed your life, you have like led this amazing life moving forward, and that to not let that devalue her self-worth, and she could at the same token be like, hey, I understand your concerns and everything, but also, I am a changed woman, and I am I am the same woman that
you've known,
you know and have fallen in love with. So kind of took that as like a lesson too. It's like, hey, you still deserve your feeling of self-worth, even in those moments where like, I'll do anything. Like you're still worthy of the love and everything. So just wanted to
completely
throw that out
agree.
there.
Completely agree. He said, in all honesty, he felt like while he believes me and feels like he knows me, he wants to take the time to look at this from a new perspective. This is where the part about feeling like he didn't really know me came in. I took off my ring and I gave it to him. And for the first time, he broke down and cried.
Oh.
He told me to put it back on, and he just wants to postpone the wedding, not end the engagement. I told him we could do whatever he thought we had to do. He said, we're just going to tell people we're going to postpone the date due to scheduling conflicts, and we would let them know a new date. Then we had to decide what we were going to tell family. He said from his side of the family that he is going to tell them that he was feeling pressured at work, and they got upset over a misunderstanding about time away. I told him that I would say whatever he wanted. He said it was best to not tell anyone else about my past except for our minister, who we are going to start going to couples counseling with. We both agreed to this. And as to my family, well, this is where the one problem we had that day came up. He just assumed my family knew. I told him they only knew about the substances and the stealing. He said that he thought my parents should know because they are paying for the wedding and it will cause some problems / canceling events and stuff. And he did not want them to think this was just because I used substances years ago. It wasn't a deal breaker for him, but he said it was something he felt was right, but would abide by whatever I thought was best. I don't really want to tell my parents what I did was bad enough, stealing and doing substances. But if they knew I spicy danced and spicy slept for money myself, I didn't think I could ever look at them in the eye again. And they have been so wonderful to me since I've come back. So in conclusion, this ended better than I have ever dreamed possible. Yes, I know he has a diminished view of me. He really was upset, and I waited so long to tell him, but I had to know that this was inevitable. And he said once he gets over the initial shock, he will try his best to never bring it up again. He truly is a wonderful man, and I am so very lucky that God put him in my life. TLDR, asked a lot of questions, stated a lot of concerns, but in the end, is going to stick it out and try to make it work. I'm so very happy. And there is an edit with some more information. Caitlin Van Kampen, the search for drugs will make you do anything for them, including even surpassing what OP has done. She really does need to get into therapy to work through all that trauma. Yeah, I feel like the minister is a good start, but I might get some more help, individual therapy.
Somebody mentioned couples therapy. Like, I feel like, working at it getting all the support from all the angles as best as you can afford it, etc.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. But it is like the minister is a great start.
Great place to start.
So edit. While there are a lot of serious misconceptions being sent to me via DM about my life, let me make this clear. I did not grow up in an abusive household. I had a loving family who, by my own actions, broke their hearts. I'm blessed beyond words, and they've accepted me back and have been nothing but loving and supportive. Both my parents are my heroes. My mom was just trying to protect me. She wasn't trying to be my accomplice. Secondly, to answer this here, if I wanted to stay with him, I had to let him ask me those questions. He gave me every opportunity to shut it down, and even several times while we were talking, he asked if I wanted to stop. He was hurting by his own words from his own insecurities. Answering the questions, even as uncomfortable as they are, bonded us, in my opinion, because he actually engaged in conversation with me and listened to everything I said. Besides, some of my answers are not nearly as dramatic as some of you have believed. We have another update, a big one, thick one. So, my 29 female, fiance 29 male, has ghosted me since he found out about my past. So, first off, things have been great between us. I mean, there have been issues, but nothing that I didn't expect, nor anything that I can't handle. I still am happy that he is in my life. When last I left off, he had asked me to tell my parents because he was afraid that they would think he was being overly critical of previous substance habit. But he also told me he wouldn't make that a deal breaker. He just thought it would be a good idea to basically tell the parents about the spicy sleep work and stuff.
Yep.
Well, after thinking about it more, I just felt like I did not want to have to tell my parents that part of my life. I believed with all of my heart that they would have supported me, but I just did not want to go through all the emotions of telling them. I explained it to him, and he was fine with it. Said that he respected my thoughts and would never say a word to them. I decided on my own to tell them that we were postponing the wedding. I told them after we had talked that he wanted to stay together and they just wanted more time to think about things. I thought that this was the best way to explain it, as I didn't want him to be there to have to explain anything, because if something would have come up, I did not want him to feel trapped in a lie or whatever. I told them, and they were disappointed, obviously, but they understood. He had given me money to give them to pay back their deposits, but they said that they did not want it and for us to keep the money. I thought that was the end of it. Was I ever wrong?
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Ruh-roh.
He came over for Thanksgiving dinner. He had lunch with his family. I was invited but could not attend due to not getting off late from work and then having to help my mom make dinner here. Well, he got to my parents around 4 or so, and we ate dinner at 5:30. My parents, both sets of grandparents, and several cousins were there, and dinner went fine. And we ate, and everybody was having a good time until my cousin, who is several years younger than me, 12, asked when we were getting married. There was a long, it seemed like forever, awkward silence. Leave it to a kid to just totally mess everything up.
Classic.
Dude, these kids, like, they'll just say crap.
These kids like, and their ruinous questions.
Why are you so ugly? Like,
did you get
fatter from last year? Like, dude, kids will say the darndest things.
It's true.
He just sat there looking at me for guidance. He spoke up and said, probably next summer. To which my mother's mother heard this, and obviously nobody had told them that the date was off. Well, she proceeded to ask if she had the dates wrong in her calendar, to which my mom quickly jumped in to say that there were scheduling conflicts. Well, that should have been it, but instead of accepting that, my grandmother starts to ask what scheduling conflicts.
Oh.
If it was the church or minister, she was going to get this straightened out. She's going to problem-solving mode.
Oh, great.
I see some ICUs in the chat.
Oh, people are dropping. We didn't even say it. They just started dropping them. Put in their ICUs right now.
This went on for a good half hour, and I could tell by the look on his face he was sick of it. He never said a word, but he looked almost very upset. Finally, my family starts to leave around 8:30 or so, and after everyone says their goodbyes, he and I go back to the living room and sit on the couch. I apologize profusely to him, and he says he's fine, but I can tell he's not really fine, but he's starting to be less tense. My parents come back in from the front porch after telling their parents goodbye, and they sit down, and my dad apologized to both of us, saying that our family means well, but sometimes can be overbearing. Winchester by Queen says, the best intentions, but yeah, they really were trying to just be helpful.
But yes. But, like, I don't know. I feel like as a human, you kind of, like...
can gauge.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but, like, I feel like for most people, like, if we were in a similar scenario...
we would have backed off.
I feel like we're like,
But, it's overbearing grandma,
But should Granny be allowed to do that?
Yeah, dude. Should Granny be pushed into the grave a little bit? Early grave. No, I'm kidding. No, let's not do that.
Push the question or push daisies?
Mm-hmm.
You decide.
Dad apologized to both of us, saying that our family means well, but sometimes can be overbearing. The three of us laughed, but I noticed my mom not laughing. My mom proceeds to take a bad situation that was under control and actually ending and decides to dump buckets of gasoline on.
Oh.
She said that she felt bad for her mom because she thought she was upset because my grandfather, my mom's dad, is having health issues, and they were afraid that he wouldn't live to see my wedding. And here is where it all goes to hell. She said it was silly to postpone things over a substance addiction that hasn't been a problem for several years. My boyfriend just sat there, but I could physically both see and feel him tense up. I was holding his hand. My dad spoke up, and he and my mom started arguing over it. And by what they were saying to each other, I could tell they had talked about this after I told him. No surprise, really. And I could tell that even though my dad was trying to be polite and make mom shut up, that I pretty much felt the same way. I just could not take it anymore. Do you think the truth is going to come out?
I think the truth is about to explode.
Which, again, leads back to John and I's golden rule is like, if you just tell your secrets early and often, it's less of a problem.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you don't understand that this man sitting to the left of me, he will go on a first date and he will just boop, 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 dump it all out there.
I do dump.
Let them know.
Or at least I don't. I feel like I do not astray from being honest with confronted with questions.
He lays it all out there.
I lay it all out
and I'm
there.
exaggerating, obviously, but like he is an honest man. He will tell you in a good way.
We try to practice what we preach here. We try. I just, to be clear, I don't dump my entire trauma story on first dates.
That was a big exaggeration.
I just am more honest than most people are comfortable with.
Yes. Again, I think in a good way. So there you go.
Sometimes. But my mom shut up, and he pretty much felt the same way. I just could not take it anymore. I felt absolutely horrible for Greg. He not only had to sit there for my grandparents, he was now having to sit there for my parents. And everybody is blaming him for all of this. It wasn't fair to him. I spoke up and told my parents that I had to talk to them and that they needed to stop arguing and stop blaming Greg for any of this. He squeezed my hand, indicating to me that I should stop, because it seems like it's going to be, the truth is going to come out.
Yes.
I looked at him and he shook his head no. I told him that no, this was not fair to him. And ultimately it wasn't fair to them either because they were blaming him for the wrong reasons. Obviously this got their attention. I went ahead and told them that after they had kicked me out of the house, I had no home, no job, no education, no skills, no nothing. I only told them that I became a spicy dancer. I could not bring myself to tell them anything more. But they are not dumb. My mom immediately gasped and started to cry. My dad just sat there dumbfounded and tried to calm my mom down. My mom, after basically being hysterical for a few minutes, apologized to Greg. She had no idea and that he was a wonderful man for staying with me, even knowing that. Not sure how I feel about that statement.
Yeah.
But I guess in the end, she was coming from a good place, I think.
Okay.
But the main thing was that it did take the blame off of him. So OP's taking the bullet. My dad welcomed him to the family by saying this was just a typical Thanksgiving, trying to be funny.
Dad joke.
We love a good dad
Why
joke.
he's trying to break the tension.
By the way, if you want a typical Thanksgiving, you should join us live every you should join us live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST right here on YouTube and Facebook. Just tap our profile.
Tap it.
So, there's a little bit more to this story.
Okay.
But, I feel like it's kind of, we're in a good spot. We're in a good spot.
We're getting there. I will admit, if I was a parent and I found out that my child had to go through that, my soul would be broken for them.
Yeah.
And that's why the comment for me was like, wow, like what you don't go to your child and be like,
oh my God, yeah.
Like at that point, it's like, oh, get the okay, yeah, yes, it's wrong.
Yeah.
This is your child going through a painful experience. Like I would just want to hold him. I don't know. That was my reaction.
No, dude. Yeah. But again, like, looking like turn lemons into lemonade. I do feel all of this starting from a very honest place is going to rebuild the relationship with the parents and the fiance in a much better way.
This is the pressure and fire that will build the diamond of their relationship. So, this moment is part of the pressure and fire, but I think to what you're saying, coming out on the other side with like more truth and honesty, I do think it will be stronger and
agreed.
All of that jazz.
So we got a little bit more to the story.
Okay, let's do it.
So I asked Greg if he would mind if I talked with my parents and I would see him on Friday. I walked him out. We kissed goodnight. And I told him how wonderful I thought he was. And he told me that I didn't need to tell him that he wasn't going to say anything. I didn't tell the parents. I said I knew he wouldn't, but it was just going to never get better with them unless they knew the truth. I went back in and spent the next several hours talking with my parents. Needless to say, it was heartbreaking on several levels. My dad openly cried. I've never seen that. He blames himself for this. He said that he never should have kicked me out and that he ruined my life. No matter what I said or did, I could not console him. My mom tried as well, but nothing. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, this gets bad.
I didn't read it. I didn't read it.
Oh, my God. Oh. We all went to bed, and I woke up because my mom was panicking, calling 911. My dad was having chest pain.
Ooh. That's not good. That's not good.
The ambulance came and said he was having a heart attack and took him to the hospital that specializes in heart problems. My dad looked horrible, and I was scared more than I ever have been. I called Greg, and he came and picked my mom up and me and drove us to the hospital. They would not let us back to see him as they rushed him into surgery. And the doctor came out telling us that the ambulance most likely saved his life.
Most likely or did?
Fingers crossed.
Okay, I'm holding in full suspense.
Recognizing what was happening and that a surgeon was with him putting in stents and had basically already used like a plunger or something to get rid of the blood clot they found. We called our minister and he was there within an hour. My dad is scheduled to come home tomorrow.
Oh.
He looked great tonight and said he felt perfectly fine. Greg has been a rock for both me and my mom. When he left to go get his food, my mom actually told me that I need to make sure to keep him because the only man she knew that was any better. Oh, because he was the only man she knew that was any better than my dad.
God.
This is hitting
right
me
in the
feels.
freaking heart.
Right in the heart.
Oh.
I am just grateful that my dad is going to be okay. Greg said tonight when he dropped me off at home that life is never dull with me. And we both laughed.
Yep.
I have to try and help my dad realize that what he did was tough love and that he can't blame himself for my poor choices. He didn't just kick me out after my first, second, or even 23rd time. They tried for a couple of years to reach me, but I was not having it. I spoke with my minister about therapy for my dad, and he said that he will speak to him as his minister and recommend another therapist if my dad is open to it. Hopefully, this should put an end to any updates. I know that Greg is the love of my life, and I am doing anything in my power to make sure he knows how much he means to me and how I will never betray his trust in me. And that is where that story ends.
As Cheryl Dye said in chat, dang it, now I'm leaking. Yup. Dude, that was...
What a story.
And you know, this is a good story to show. Life ain't always pretty, but the power of like working together and like think what OP's overcome. Think what their relationship is overcoming. Think what her the child parent relationship is overcoming. Like this is just like a good case study in being able to work and grow through very, very hard things with the people you love.
Yeah. And it all started with just open, honest communication.
That's where it all started.
That is where all great relationships start, with communication and honesty. And if you can have a foundation of that, there's not a lot of things that life can throw at you that you can't overcome.
Yes.
So I think that's where that story ends.
That's all she wrote.
And this episode ends. And yeah, I mean, if you love us, make sure to subscribe.
We love you.
And see you tomorrow.